Hi, everyone. I'm Todd Fernandez with Climate Crisis Policy, and I'll be your host today. We're going to have a very informal meeting so we can have more time for discussion and more in-depth, digging into various fronts. So we're going to cover the SCOTUS hearing on the 28th, the Earth Bill, a whole bunch of things there, plans for farmers market, activities in the spring. We'll go into the bill package, the climate bill package a little bit, and a new bill there. We'll talk about the adopted district teams and outreach there. And then we'll touch base a little bit about coalitions that we're part of, particularly the Plastics Coalition, and some action and activity there. And then at the end, if anyone has updates and things that they want to share, that's fine too. The real hope here today is just to make sure everyone's up to speed with everything. And, that then if any questions you all have, we will answer and just moving forward. And so we'll stop after each section and discuss a little bit. And if it seems like we want to have a more in-depth conversation about something, we'll bounce it to the end. So let me put myself back on gallery mode so I can see everybody. And Nydia, I know you had an email. Sorry, I didn't get back to you about that before this. I was studying the oceans bill. So I'm just looking at who all's here. It's mostly all familiar faces, a few new folks. So welcome if you're new. We've had several new groups sign up for the Earth Bill Network endorsing it, several faith organizations. I'll list those in a minute. So I think we've gotten new folks joining through that. And we, of course, had the big drawdown New York City presentation last week, I think it was. And that went really well and drew in a whole bunch of new folks. So we're always, because all of our meetings are open and inclusive, we're always working and moving ahead and onboarding new folks. So sometimes it's a little hectic in that regard. So just reach out anytime you have questions. So before I dig in, because Lavona has something else she wanted to go to. So hi, Lavona, welcome. And please, if you would, just tell us a little bit about what's going on with the Supreme Court on February 28th.
Great. Yeah. Hi, everybody. So there's going to be an action in front of the Supreme Court on Monday, the 28th. And this is during the time that the Supreme Court will be hearing the West Virginia versus EPA. They'll have oral arguments. So this is really important because it really puts at risk the Clean Air Act and the authority and ability of the EPA to really, enforce the carbon dioxide in the air and protect us from pollution. So there's going to be an event. It's organized by the Climate Action Campaign and a number of groups, and the faith community is involved too. And we've actually recruited a couple of speakers for that event. So it'll be in the morning. So if you know people in the DC area, number one is to ask to pass this information on, and I'm going to put a link in the chat. And there's going to be two things: directly to the registration information. And second, there'll be a link to a adaptable announcement that could be put out into your publication, maybe for your Facebook pages, any way to kind of raise awareness for people about what's at stake here. And so it'll be in the morning. We'll gather at 9 o'clock. There'll even be some maybe hot beverages there. And at 9:30 to 10:30 is the rally. There'll be about 10 speakers. And we want to, heighten this awareness. It's a very nonpartisan. We're just really trying to, raise the profile of this issue at the time that the Supreme Court will be, hearing these, considering this. So the West Virginia, there's a number of attorney generals that are joining in this across several states, asking, really to stop the authority of the EPA. So I'll put that information in. Todd, is there anything else about it that you want to mention?
Well, one thing, I just put a registration link because we had one specific to our network. So I'm putting our link in the chat.
Oh,
Lavona, I don't know if
okay.
you had our targeted
I
link
didn't-
or the general. So
I had
that's
the
our
general
targeted.
one.
Okay.
Mhm. And
That way we'll
so,
get your lists and we'll get emails of everyone who signs up via that list as well.
yeah, if you're in the DC area, we're hoping that IPL, the area IPL will be promoting, and we have 2 speakers, which include Reverend Susan Hendershot, IPL National President, and Rabbi Lauren Holtzblatt. And she is very important. There's a very large congregation, Jewish congregation. And she actually gave some part of the eulogy at Ruth Bader Ginsburg's memorial service, and her husband was a clerk for her. And so there's a real connection there. So there's going to be, I think, some from the heart and the head going on during this period. So
Wonderful.
yeah, if you can just pass that word along, that'll be really great. And there will be, I believe there will be some toolkit coming out that you can, even if you're not in the area, to tweet about, and amplify what's going on at that time. But I did want to give a piece of good news about the Supreme Court. I don't know if you heard yesterday, the Supreme Court rejected the Dakota Access Pipeline developers' bid to avoid an additional environmental review. So this is a good thing. And so it doesn't mean that it's over yet, but there will be a delay, and there will be that impact statement that will be put in place. Thanks, Todd.
Great. Thank you, Lavona. And Lavona's been.
Oh, looks like there's a question maybe, Stephen.
Yeah. Stephen, you have a question about this?
Yeah, hi, this is Stephen Sondheim. I'm with the Sierra Club and a bunch of other organizations. A question and a comment. Will the speakers on Monday, will that be recorded somehow? Because we could all benefit from some of their input. That's one. And the comment is, oh God, years ago, I was on the MPO in Memphis, Tennessee, the Transportation Planning. And I asked them, this was before the ruling on carbon dioxide. I asked them if they were going to track carbon. And an engineer stood up and said, of course we track carbon monoxide. And I said, no, sir, carbon dioxide. And he said, well, until we're told by the federal government to track that, we're not. So it's just an illustration of how important this is. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Is there going to be a live stream, Lavona? Do you know?
No, as of at least last Thursday, there wasn't. There is another planning committee meeting this Thursday, and I was going to actually, before I send out further, I was going to ask about that, but I haven't seen anything stated about that.
I'll ping Emily.
If it's not live stream, perhaps a video or audio recording of some of the talks or speeches could be made just for information. Thank you.
Yeah, I can't imagine that they won't, but
Stephen, do you need more videos to watch? I can get you some.
No, I got
I'm
plenty.
just
Thank
teasing
you. I've got a stack.
I'm just teasing you, Stephen. Good to see you, my friend. All right, so that's it. 28th. They're trying to get 300, people to show up. So anything you can do to, spread the word would be wonderful. All right, great. It's a big case. It could be really the outcome determinative decision for the foreseeable future on our ability to ban greenhouse gases. And so there's almost nothing more important, but obviously there's not much we can do. Oh, but speaking of which, I forgot already, we have a postcard campaign going just to give us a way to have an input, even though it's not totally ethical or straight up ethical as far as engagement with the Supreme Court or courts generally. I think when the earth is in danger and it's emergency, we can perhaps ignore some of those niceties and get your own amicus brief and via a postcard or an email. So there's an email that went out to the listserv to everyone. Hopefully you all have that and you can use that accordingly as you feel inclined. Any other questions about this, and we'll move on? Okay. The next thing on the agenda is the Earth Bill. Just going to share my screen here a little bit and take us through a couple things. Here is the website again, you all are familiar with, hopefully. At the bottom, we have all the organizations listed, and I'm happy to say we have several new ones. So why don't I just stop and welcome the Unitarian Universalist Ministry for Earth, which was a big one. Thanks to the faith team who worked so hard on that. Environmental Matters, St. Francis de Sales Laudato Si team, which is in New York. The Creation Care team of the Catholic Diocese of San Diego, which Nancy Lawrence is working with and seems like brought into the fold here. That's a big one. First of Parish Concord, Massachusetts, environmental team. And then NIPAN, thanks to Carrie Gardner, a couple NIPAN groups. And then a new group, Westpac, which is Westchester County in New York. So we're up to like almost, well, it says 59 here. So we're growing. So obviously we want to add to that list as much as possible. So please keep adding to your list. And as I write various congressional folks, I pull the groups that are in their state and I pull the activists that are in their state. And I put those in, targeted lists to them. So they all do add up and help present the hopefully now growing groundswell of support for this idea. On this idea of the organizations, as you can see here, I'll scroll up a little bit. You can see there's all these organizations here. What we've not done yet is convene the organizations as a group to coordinate their engagement. And so obviously that's a whole nother job. And I'm thinking about it. So if you're a member of any of these existing groups and you have capacity and you would like to get more involved in helping to coordinate other groups that have already signed up, please let me know. And that's going to be a theme of our meeting today. We're looking for more help to try to, take all the great interest that we have and get it in motion better and get it in a coordinated way, working together. That's obviously a job in and of itself. We're also have good news to report. I guess I should have started with this about the Earth Bill, and we're in talks with 3 different offices, congressional offices actively. And one of them is it seems very interested in becoming the lead sponsor. That's Representative Espaillat's office. We're in deep talks with them about that, and we meet again next week. And then Karen Maloney's office has expressed interest, and I just heard back from Representative Schakowsky's office, thanks to Mary She's Green, who has been leading the effort there in Illinois, and they're still very interested. So this is sort of happening faster than I thought, and it's not done till it's done, and there are still big hurdles. The Espaillat staff has not even spoken to the congressman yet about it, but you got to get through the staff issues and then the bill review. And one thing that we're looking at very closely is the agricultural provisions. And so I'm back in talks with Pam Cook at Columbia, the Tisch Center, who helped us put the digest together. We're in touch with Cornell University's agriculture team, and we're meeting next week. And the National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition, talking to them next week, trying to shore up the agricultural support for this approach. As it turns out, mandates on big ag seem to be the third rail of politics, even more so than idea of, well, not that anyone's really behind mandates on utilities, but it's an easier ask, it seems like, than even beginning to talk about mandating pollution, policy with respect to agriculture. So I'm just finding this out through various avenues, and but we're not deterred by that. We just want to know for sure that we have the right answer. And I don't think that we could have the wrong answer because it comes from all their materials, but none of them have really proposed putting these requirements on big ag categorically. And when I say big ag, I mean the major corporations that control most of the food production and animal production in the country, as distinguished from small farmers and individually owned farmers, although many of the farms are under contract with big ag. And that's why we targeted the big ag, and the language specifically says, corporations that control by contractual relationship the farming practices of, the people they contract with. And, so they provide all the inputs and then they buy all the product. Basically, this is sort of a feudal system of farmers that work under the thumb of some major corporations. So I just list that as a caveat. That seems to be the trickiest issue that we still have yet to resolve. And then the last piece on the Earth bill, I was going to go into the language more, but time is already flying by. As you know, we have a draft bill and it has very detailed language and the definitions are here. So feel free to look at those. It talks about where they came from. We won't go into it now because time is, like I say, already flying by. But if you have any questions about this, let me know. One question I'm working on also is the utility mandate. The way we have it, it's just a mandate on utilities to procure 100% renewable. But where does that fit in any existing law? Should it go into the Federal Power Act or should it go somewhere else? Normally there's a body of law that regulates an arena. So when you're tweaking it or messing with it, you insert things there. But as it turns out, this industry has managed to avoid federal regulation at that level, which is why we're in the situation that we're in. So as you know, on the Earth Bill site, just to walk everyone through this again, I don't know why I can't see the menu. Let's see if I can see the menu. Oh, here it is at the top. Never mind. Resources. Once you go to the first page, you go to resources, and then you click on action tools. And I already have that open over here. Well, I thought I had it open. Let's just open it again. Action tools. And these are all the tools you need to do your outreach. So for example, there's the draft language, there's draft emails for sponsors on number 4 here, Earth Bill. And then there's an overview and summary, which I've been calling a strategic overview. So these are the elements that you need to go and draft an email to your, so if you click on this, it'll open to sponsorship hunt, gives you a little preliminary information, and then it has draft emails, one for Democrats and one for Republicans. Turns out they're not that different at this point. And you should feel free to edit these as you feel called in your own interaction. But I'm pointing these out just to walk us through the steps that you would need. You start with the Earth Bill website, you go to tools, or resources it's called, sorry. And that takes you here, and then you action tools, and that takes you there to here, and then you see. So these are all the materials you should need to be able to go ahead and conduct your own outreach. And that's where we are, because things are proceeding with the potential sponsor. It's really crunch time to go ahead and send the email out to your representatives. And you could be part of a team. You can do it on your own. It doesn't matter. Please copy us. It says in the instructions. And that way, once, if we get a yes for lead sponsor, then it's game on, you know, so we'll be returning to all those where you have preliminary outreach in motion, because most of the time they'll say, oh, we're interested in this. Let us know if you get a lead sponsor and come back with final language, and you know, we'll see about it. But all that just to get to that point can take weeks, if not months of email and waiting and all sorts of things. So the sooner you can get that in motion, the better. So I'm going to stop there for a minute and stop sharing, and then just see if there are any questions about this much so far. Any questions about anything? Just Peter, go ahead.
Hey, Todd, good to see you. Good to see everyone else. Just really briefly, in terms of the timing, I've seen, you know, the Earth Bill Network's sort of long-term strategy, and I'm wondering a couple of things. Are we going to build into that timeline some more detailed steps along the way, or suggested steps in terms of our organizing efforts and our advocacy efforts with Congress, sort of getting to the point where we're going to have a bill introduced, hopefully this session, but then really moving forward to a vote in the next couple of years. And then does that affect the 2030 timeline at all? So in other words, if we're going to have a bill, a goal of passing a bill in 2024, 2025, is 5 years realistic, or are we going to look at extending that out to something beyond 2030?
Thanks, Peter. So with respect to the first question, we could create a more detailed, I think it would be more along the lines of action steps that we would take internally with respect to our adopted district teams. And so I'm going to talk a little bit more about some next steps within that framework, but we could come up with a little bit more of a schedule And if you have suggestions for what should be on that, that would be great. And it would be nice to have a little more interim milestones and goals, I think is what you're getting at, to try to spur things along. So that's a great idea. So maybe we could work on that together a little bit. And then 2030, they're going to keep pushing these timelines back, of course. So, we'll worry about that when we get to 2025, I would imagine. We're trying to hold firm on that date for now, obviously. And, as I said before, it matters more when we get started than when we try to finish, because there'll be delays. Everything's going to be delayed, and there'll be extensions. They might even amend statutes if there are any deadlines. Who knows? But it's once we get started and get that mandate in place that really matters, I think. Any other questions? Monica?
Yes, I know at one point you mentioned that plastic/materials, cement, HFCs are going to be included in the Earth bill. Is that still on course? You said first it was going to be a one-part Earth bill, and then you were going to add a second part to the Earth bill.
So here's where this has gone. As you know, and we almost have documents ready to share, but so as you know, we're relooking at the OFF Act, the Off Fossil Fuels Act, which was a more comprehensive, inclusive bill. And there's energy behind the organizers that did that, as you saw in our last meeting with Rania Beatrice, to really open that back up and go through a full series of input and ideas. So that way we have two avenues at work. So my hope is we'll get the Earth bill filed shorter course, and it'll stay clean. Electricity, cars, and food. Food and Water Watch would like to add lightweight vehicles to the car thing. That's not a problem, I don't think. And then use the Off Act journey to get our wish list together and to build consensus around that and make sure it has the kinds of things that we want in it. So that's the current thinking on that. And since we're at the Off Act conversation, I was going to bring it up later, but we're going to have a document going out soon that will, where you can provide input and ideas. So be thinking about what, I know the environmental community, everybody has a pet issue. So get your pet issues ready. Now's the time. And we'll see if we can't squeeze them all in there somehow without overwhelming everything. And then so I think we'll be referring to this as the Earth bill, and then the Earth bill package, perhaps. And that'll be the climate bill package, and if the Off Act gets reintroduced. So, and this is an important part of our strategy, not to try to put everything in one place, generally speaking, just because it's so hard to get folks to agree on anything. And so if we compartmentalize that again a little bit and package it, that seems to be the easier path of less resistance, not no resistance.
So where
Maggie, go ahead. Oh, sorry.
Working in terms of the materials sector, should we continue work on that, or should I just continue working with the other organizations?
I have to think about that, but let's make sure we get the material stuff in the Off Act.
Okay.
Maggie.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to bring up one point that not everybody knows. I'm a member of the National Recycling Coalition Board and also the Manhattan Solid Waste Advisory Board. We've put together some fact sheets using EPA research from the aughts and showed that half of the carbon that goes into the atmosphere comes as a result of the production, transportation, and use of products, packaging, and food. All of those things can be dealt with using zero waste strategies like waste prevention, reuse, recycling, composting. And yet you don't see those in Green New Deals or anything like that. And half of the carbon comes from our consumption habits. So, I wanted to bring that up because it's huge. It's twice as big as passenger transportation. It's twice as big as buildings. Okay. But we're not paying any attention to it. And cities that look at their carbon footprint, they put up walls at the edge of the city. And so the demand for products that the people in their cities, demand that you bring us packaging and food and products and so forth, those are not charged anywhere. You know, if they're charged anywhere, they're charged to poor little Forks, Washington that does logging, you know, or to some mining town. And, you know, it needs to be charged to those who are demanding the products, the packaging, and the food.
So, well, thank you, Maggie. Well, we're going to talk about this a little bit later at the end, but, you know, obviously we have the plastics bill in our climate bill package, and we're very active with the Plastics Coalition. And now there's work going ahead on a international treaty on plastics. Actually, as we speak, the United Nations Environmental Assembly is convening, and there's a full court press to get the basic next steps in place for an international treaty. So yes, plastics is a huge problem. Even though we have the plastics bill, it's not clear exactly how thoroughly it all addresses the problem. So that's a
But
full
it's not
conversation.
just, I'm not talking just about plastics though. You know, it's the
Oh, tell me.
entire panoply, you know, all packaging, all products, you know, our demand for disposable items and so forth. The fact that we're not making things as durably as we used to, and we're just consuming. And that is not brought up in any legislation that I'm aware of.
All right. Well, I had some questions to the plastics folks too. But all packaging, I hear what you're saying. So Maggie, all right, let's think about this then. And with respect to this off-act work, and let's figure out what the solutions are and write it up. You know, sometimes a lot of folks just hesitate. Before we get too much into other details, are there of other topics, not that they're not related, of course. Does anyone have any questions specifically about the Earth Bill journey and the advocacy front? But go ahead, the folks had questions. Somebody just hands went down, but Sally, do you have a question?
Sorry for jumping in so late, but I just heard you talking about packaging. Are you aware of the bill McCann proposed in New Jersey saying nothing in a package more than 2 times the size of the product?
All right. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
So there you go. Maybe that's some of the
Yeah, he
ideas.
got a little baby on board thing in a giant box and went, no, this enough of this.
All right. Let's not get too distracted down the packaging line, but I hear you. We got to address this and it's important. Mary.
Sorry, so the guy that just spoke before talked about composting in New York City. It's just been kind of hit by Adams, who has now curbside composting. He's not having it anymore because they've cut it out of his, are you guys addressing that, or is that something else?
No, but I live in New York and I was trying to get my compost situation set up,
Right.
and it was very complicated. And so
He just cut it. He cut it out of his, anyway, that's the bad news.
Yes, there's always plenty of that.
Yep.
Not to mention, everyone's heard about NOAA's predictions, another foot in sea level rise within the next couple of decades. All right, but back to the Earth Bill. Any questions about this strategy and the approach? Anything not make sense? Any pitfalls that you feel like you've identified that we're not clear on, or counter arguments, or anything that we need to be ready for, or that you have questions about? You don't have to say them now. If you don't want to, we can stay on the line at the end. I just want to make sure that we're all moving together and that we haven't left folks behind in the conversation or the strategy. And I see Derek Perkison on the line. I want to thank him for his outreach on several fronts to Representative Espaillat, Senator Gillibrand, whose team reached out to us thanks to him. That was a first. All right, no questions on this. All right. Well, then we're going to move forward to the bill package. I'm going to share my screen again. As you mostly probably know, we started out with a bill package. This is the Climate Crisis Policy website. Hopefully everyone's familiar with it. And we have on here a list of bills. I don't know how many there are now. I think there are 11 or 12. So some of these are getting some attention right now. The Environmental Justice for All Act, End of Polluter Welfare Act went nowhere in the House. That would have stopped the tax subsidies. I'm not going to go through them in any detail. Just want to remind everybody that they're here. Talk a little bit about reaching out and some of the emails in that same toolkit on the Earth Bill page are for the adopted district package. So I'm going to go back to the adopted district package. Let's see here. Here's the toolkit that I showed you earlier from the Earth Bill website. And if you scroll down, you'll see adopted district. And there are materials. It's a little complicated, more complicated than it needs to be at this point. I think we need to clean all of this up, and I'm looking at it, and we've done some cleanup. One thing we've done is cleaned up the PowerPoint presentation, thanks to Terry, and it's almost finished, and it's fabulous. She's done a brilliant job. It includes the Earth Bill and then all the bills in the package, a slide on each one. And so we'll be updating that list. I should have had it queued up here. I don't know if I have it here. Video bill package summary. There's a summary of everything that's been updated that Artem keeps current. Art, I saw you join the call. Is this it? I think this is the document that he's keeping current. It has all the information you need in it about details of everything. So as you can see, all that information is here. And the idea is to, use that bill package to build your local teams, to find more folks in your community that care about the individual issues in the bill package and join the forces. So it's really, it's a tool really, because these bills all have a very long way to go. The plastics bill is the furthest along with 122 sponsors. These co-sponsor lists are pretty current. The group endorsement list is not so current. It's harder to get that information. And then there's a new bill that I want to introduce briefly today called the Oceans-Based Climate Solutions Act of 2021. This is a mammoth bill. But Oceana, which is one of the leading NGOs on this front, one of the largest and most influential, I'm sure. This is their bill, along with several other groups. It was evidently crafted and drafted by a congressional committee. I forget which one. And it has so much in it that I'm not going to go through right now. I was reading it today myself again, but it has a lot in it. It tackles a lot of things. Offshore drilling, coastal barriers, all sorts of fishing issues and coastal zone management. It really goes on. And there's a virgin plastics excise tax. But this is the bill that this community seems most passionate about. And so the hope is that we'll include it. Now, normally we would go through a process where somebody would come and teach you about the bill, and we can still do that. We're going to try to find the right person. It turns out there's not a lead organization that's point on the advocacy for it, which is weird. It has 40 co-sponsors, it looks like. And is everyone familiar with this site, the .gov site, congress.gov? This is where all the bills are listed that are filed, and you can see the information, a summary. Most importantly, you can find the co-sponsors by clicking on here, and you can see all the co-sponsors that have filed it, related bills, etc. So my hope was to just take a straw poll, or my question was take a straw poll just on this little information about how folks feel about adding an oceans bill to the bill package. It's been a big missing component. I think generally we go through more of a process. We review them, we have people come and speak, we have voting on it, because we'd like to have process, because it's part of how we move forward together. This is such a complex bill, I'm not sure we'll ever get to that level of deep understanding. So my ask is, I'm wondering if are there any objections to it generally going into the package? Sort of a back-ended way for us to do these things. As you can probably tell, if you're new, we're not a stickler for process, but we do like to have some process. All right, I'm not seeing any opposition. If anyone has any opposition, please put it in the chat, and we'll work through it if there is. But if there's not any, maybe we'll try to have somebody come to our next meeting and discuss this in greater detail. But we're leaning toward adding it, and it's already been added to some of the materials, the PowerPoint presentation that Terry's done, and to the bill package overview that Art has updated. All right, well, I'm not seeing any strong opposition. Art, was there anything about that bill that you thought was an issue? I see you there, but maybe you can't speak right now. All right, well, this is getting easier as we go along. I guess when we know each other so well, and we trust each other, and we trust Oceana. So, and you know, with all of our bills in our package, some of them really get to core solutions. Some of them don't. Some of them are clearly compromises that they decided on that they thought would be more politically feasible. So it doesn't mean that when we endorse these bills and we advocate for them, again, we're using them as tools to combine the environmental activists across issues to begin to have any hope of having the kind of power that we're going to need to get any of these over the finish line down the road. So it's all strategy. It's a building block. It's finding the activists who care about these things and bringing them into your fold. So Monica, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, it seems like in the bill, there should be something addressing waste. Maybe something to do with EPR legislation. I mean, we want alternative energy. How are we going to dispose of the plastic solar panels? How about the batteries? I mean, we're not even talking about plastic bottles, but maybe some type of EPR bill in this package, something to, you know, to think about the waste products, the end of life products from all this, because this is part of the problem.
All right, put a note in it. So these are all the things that we should get in the off act, and then we'll have to canvass our existing bills, make sure that what you're proposing is not already in one of those bills, or even if it is, well, there can be overlap. There's a little overlap across various things. Like I said, there's an excise tax on virgin plastics in the ocean bill. So there's some overlap. So keep your notes. We're going to go through this journey of the off act, and we'll make sure we fit as many things in there as we can. Any other questions? Please don't be shy, everybody. Today is for you all, really. I feel like we spend a lot of time talking at you, and I'm on a lot of meetings where they talk at me, and I just wanted to make them. We used to have Monday night meetings every Monday night for years, and we've paused those temporarily while I catch my breath. And so this meeting is sort of in substitute for some of those. And at those meetings, obviously, we talk a lot more in depth and always have room. And like I say, if you're not uncomfortable talking in front of everybody right now, I'll stay on for a minute afterwards and you can ask me questions. All right, well, next up we have Gregg is going to tell us a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about the Adopted District program and get into that work. So for folks who are new, we have an Adopted District program where we encourage you to be the lead in your congressional district. And then you help to organize other people in your community. And Gregg, I'll let Gregg tell you about where we are and then what he's doing, and then I'll make the pitch for the kind of support we need and that kind of thing. Go ahead, Gregg.
Hi, everyone. So the numbers are kind of similar to the last time that I spoke about this. We have 120 adopted districts, and in those districts, we have activists in numbers of around 275 people. And the representatives are 94 of them are Democrat and 26 are Republican. In those states, we have 37 Democrats and 20 Republicans and 1 independent. And we've got folks in 29 states. If you go to, I think that you can access this spreadsheet from the, I don't know if it's accessible from the Earth Bill website, but it's accessible from the Climate Crisis Policy website. There's an adopted district lead spreadsheet, and it shows you all the folks who are currently leading in their districts, leading in their state, and also the folks that are supporters. You want me to read through all the states we have, Todd? well, I'll go through it. We got Alabama, California,
You don't have to
Colorado.
read them all, though. You don't have
All
to read
right.
them all.
All
Yeah.
right, well, we got 29 states.
Well, here they are listed, though. I'm showing people as you speak. There's the
Okay.
adopted district leads
Right.
document. But go ahead, sorry.
I
Am I
think
listed on here?
that was one thing I was looking to ask people. If you don't see yourself on this list, please let me know. And also, if you see other folks that aren't listed there, or you see folks there that are involved, that have been involved in your districts and they're not active anymore, please let me know and I can update this information. It'll be really
Greg,
helpful to me.
Greg, what's your contact info?
I'll put it in the chat. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Well, thank you, Greg. So, all right, here's where we are with this. If you go to from the Earth Bill website, you can also access the adopted district page, but it'll just take you here. But it's listed there for folks. So you get to the adopted district page on the climate crisis policy. And if you click on view more, it'll take you down to all this information. We're not having those meetings. I call it the quick list adopted district leads. And that document, but also below here are all the districts listed. And if you scroll down, you can find a district and you'll see a name and you see Marilyn Price. You click on that and normally Marilyn's email would be here and any, let's try another one, and contact information. So there's her organizations, but her email's not there either for, so some of these don't have emails listed, but most of them are supposed to. Greg, we'll have to look at this, whether emails for those folks are not here.
Folks who are just supporters don't have emails listed.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it's only if there's a lead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, so here's what we need here. Obviously, we'd love for you to adopt your district. And then we have some next steps for that to go over a little bit. But what we really need is about 3 or so volunteers who can help us engage with all the folks that have volunteered. So like, for example, I'll pick a district because I see it has 10 or 12 people in it and I'll write them and I'll send an email to all of them. Hello, everybody. You know, we're interested in getting your district going. Is anyone interested in being a point person and a lead there? And so we're basically fishing for volunteers to take on their congressional district and help organize all the volunteers that have signed up. In some districts, we have very active leads that are running, you know, professional top-notch efforts, and others are more informal and it's all good. So we need like a few volunteers. We don't need them. This operates intentionally in a decentralized way. And so folks do what they are going to do, and that's fine. It's really a model of how to do this. And we're encouraging all the coalitions that we're in to come up with their own adopted district program, hoping that if each group does their own, organizes their own members by congressional district, that as we start to converge on our shared demands, all these little mini adopted district programs will come together too one day. So it is just really a prototype. So we don't have to do everything. But I think it would be nice if we had a few people who could send emails and follow up with people very politely and lure people basically to being on board and more active, so we know exactly who's doing what and make sure that these districts are active. I've made this pitch before and we haven't been very successful with it, so it's fine if we don't get anyone, but please mull it over. Does anyone now want to raise their hand? We would be bringing you right into the fold and you would have direct access to you know, our most internal spreadsheets, and I would coach you through how to do it. But Greg's been doing a lot of it. I do some of it. We used to have other folks doing it, but now it's just the two of us. So it just requires email capacity and time. Please raise your hand if you're interested or put your name in the chat. There's no prayer pressure here. Oh, did I see a hand go up? Oh my gosh, I've seen hands.
Hi, Todd. I had started with you guys, I don't know, maybe a year back. Oh, sorry, let me get my, anyway. And you put me in contact with another person from my district and we wrote our representative. And then I kind of forget what happened, but it didn't go anywhere. How do I look to see who has volunteered in my district? I'm clicking on many links right now, and I just haven't gotten to that point, because I'd like to try this again.
I'm going to put this document in the chat.
Okay.
It's nice if we go through the link, that way you can find it again. If you go through the websites, but here's adopted.
Yeah, I was on the website. I've been clicking on stuff. I just haven't gotten to it, and I don't want to not.
I know there might be too many documents. We can clean that up a little bit. So there's the sheet that
Okay.
we're looking at. And if you find your district on there should be a name and a contact person.
Okay, I got it. Thanks.
But you should all feel free to email me or Greg anytime you're ready to move and you're not in touch with your folks.
Okay.
And because we've had new people sign up all the time. Let me
Yeah.
just show you what that looks like.
Yeah, sure.
And also, Kristen, I'm looking at my master list and I only see you in Maryland District 6.
I'm district I am 6. Sorry, I'm like all into state stuff right now because our Maryland General Assembly's in. Yes, you're right, I am 6. I could find maybe
But
he's dropped off, but
there's quite a few folks in Maryland. It would be great if all the
Yeah,
folks in Maryland
sure.
could work together.
for progressive state, so to speak, supposedly.
I'm showing you guys on the screen the list of, this is the Earth Bill responses. The adopted district has a similar one. Oh, here's the adopted district. Oh no, that's not it. Well, we have another spreadsheet on the adopted district. I can show it to you. Responses and management. This is Gregg's mammoth opus. But here you can see all the names and everything and by district. So if we just go to Maryland,
Okay.
Maryland, you can see a few people here. There's like 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, there's quite a few here.
Okay.
Maryland. And then we have the Earth Bill list, which also has Maryland folks.
Okay.
So it's a little bit complicated, but my hope is that if we find somebody for a district or a state, is what we really want, state leads. That's what just makes it easier for us to work with you.
Right.
And then you can contact all the people and we'll give you all those emails from your
Okay.
state and get you started.
Yeah. Because my representative is lame on the climate. He's just obsessed with opioids right now. So that's all he talks about.
That's a weird way to put it. A lot of people are. That's the
I
problem.
mean, and it's a problem, but it's not the only problem.
It's a huge, I understand. Trust me, when you go knocking door to door for presidential campaigns, you find out how prevalent it is. Everyone almost, anyhow. So great, you get the idea. So we had somebody raise their hand to help. Adam, was that you? You want to say hi? Any thoughts about this?
Yeah, no, I just, my organizing was in disarray because I did a Dem exit and joined the Green Party for a bit, but I'm back in the Democratic Party running for county boards. So I'm back with our revolution, Lake County, and we're going to reboot. Right now we're focusing on signatures, but originally my co-organizers told me, don't run for Congress again, just organize locally, build bottom up. But I was a little salty about being thrown off the ballot last time I ran. So I really wanted to go after Brad. But, like I said, I'm looking to be more of a collaborator and working on a precinct and local level rather than running for federal, even though, the federal government has the power to speak things into existence, which we simply don't have at a local level. But I would like to do whatever I can do on a local level.
Mm-hmm.
Was that too
All right,
many
wonderful.
words or just enough or not enough?
Great. No, that's great. Thank you. Thank you. So everyone, you all know my email by now. I hope climatecrisispolicy@gmail.com. You probably will be glad to see that email disappear one day. I'm tired of saying it myself, but if you're interested at all in helping, it's just emailing and it's no heavy lifting. And if you get tired of it, you can drop it. And so there's my email. If you're interested, please let me know and we could use help here. So let's see, we're doing well on time. With respect to adopted district, and we're going to get more information out there. There are just three things I would like to encourage everyone to do, whether you're adopted district or not. Whether you've adopted a district or not. One is to contact the local political club. There in New York, there are several Democratic clubs and several Republican clubs. I went to some meetings of theirs in the holiday season, and you start talking to somebody about climate and they're like terrified, they're panicked about it, and they have no idea what the answer is or what the demand is. They just don't know. Nothing is breaking through the climate movement in general is fairly insular. It's groups join coalitions. They're mostly privately held. You have to be an organization. There's not a lot of direct engagement with the public. And of course, we're here to change that. That's what we do, not just because we want to, but because it's strategically necessary. It's imperative, really. So I found receptivity within the Democratic clubs leaders, like I was shocked, So we need to go and establish relationships with those people. This is the most important group that you could ever reach to have influence with the local representatives. They have those folks' ears, they have deep relationships. So if you could put on your to-do list, find the local Democratic club or Republican club, if you're in a Republican held district, and reach out, explain to them that you're a climate activist, you want to have a phone call with them, get to know them a little bit. And then I would pitch the Earth Bill first because it's simpler, electricity, cars, and food. I would pitch that first and leave it at that for now. And if they get deeper interest, you can go into the bill package and that kind of thing. But that's the top one. The second thing is to find major donors with your elected official. So you can find their donor lists, find a few major donors, figure out how to contact them. None of that will be easy. It's a little tricky, but so that's the next ask. Find major donors, engage them in the same way. And then the third piece is to build your local team. So really identify set a goal of 3 new contacts, ideally local organizations, but they could be local activists or, names of people that that are active, prominent people in your community. Because you want to build your local adopted district team or just your local network. And if you could identify 3 there, that would be great next steps. And if in a month from now we come back and everybody can say, I contacted a Democratic club, I found a donor, and I found at least one more group to join my team, you'll be moving things forward. And this is very important to have that to-do list. My to-do list never ends, as you might imagine. But this is the to-do list for the adopted district. And the last piece I wanted to add about those Republican targets. We've identified about 20 congressional districts that are held by Republicans where there have been terrible storms and devastation. So we're going to be doubling down on those in the next few months. And if you're in a Republican district and you feel completely hopeless and lost, we're going to create a solidarity team with everyone who lives in a Republican district. And we're going to focus on that because ultimately the victory for any of this is going to require that we go through the resistance. They've got everybody running circles right now and begging for pieces and crumbs. We're not going to get the kind of size of change that we need working through a single one party, hoping that the Democrats are going to be able to deliver. We've seen that didn't work this past year, even for the agenda that we had in play, which did not include any mandates. So it's not a pleasant thing to have to go through the Republican resistance, but I don't see a way around it. So we're going to just, confront that head on and start organizing because that's the final frontier. All right. I promised this was going to be time for you all to talk and ask questions. And what have I done? Kept talking and talking. But we're covering basics, but we're trying to get deeper into it. Any questions about the Adopted District program and any volunteers to help us email the multitude of volunteers? Nobody's going to volunteer. I'll cry for you if you want.
Sally in the chat asks for contacts in her district in New Jersey. So
great.
There's something.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sally.
Well, as I say, we're doing great work and there's a lot of self-initiating. So we don't have to handhold folks. This is really about leadership. And so we're looking for people to demonstrate leadership in their own district. Nothing else matters as much. If you could handle your state, that would be a huge help. And shout out to Peter and the team out in Oregon that have an incredible thing going. And then to New York has a wonderful thing going, and Jose and a whole team. All right, any questions about adopted district? Maybe just by a show of hands of people I can see, how many of you are adopting your district or working on your district or working on engagement with your folks? Some of you? All right, well, that's what we're here for, folks. This is not entertainment. We're here to work. So we need you to work. That's my pitch, as hard as I'm going to push it. All right, I see some hands going up. Good. Hey, David, good to see you. I know Nancy Lawrence is a tour de force. It really is going to require all of us. You know, we're trying to push something that's the vanguard. We're ahead of the curve in the movement. So, and on that note, and then we'll go into the coalition, and we'll get you out of here shortly. We're a member of several coalitions, as I've mentioned in the last meeting, and I listed them all. And you're all welcome to these coalitions. And the whole point of our work is to connect the inside to the outside. And it's a journey for them to get used to that idea, but they're opening up to it. And the major coalition that we're active in is the Break Free. Well, there's two. Break Free from Fossil Fuels. Oh no, Build Back Fossil Free. Sorry. Build Back Fossil Free, which is run by the Center for Biological Diversity and the Indigenous Environmental Network and a host of others. They're generally fairly young, but they did the actions in DC, and their focus is on Biden. And they have open meetings, and they're going to be, you know, they're working on their plan for this year. And so that's a group that you'd be welcome to join their regular meetings on Monday. So, and again, they're focused on Biden, trying to get them to also include legislative agenda in their bandwidth. Well, we'll see. So if anyone wants to join that, that's seems to be the place where the action is in terms of direct action. And they have a social media campaign that they're doing, again, focused on Biden. I'm not sure how far they're going to get with Biden. I don't see much changing from where we are over this year, but you should never take anything I say like that to mean that they should give up or not do it. All pushing is important and necessary. And then the other coalition is the Monica, how's it go? Break Free from Plastics.
Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act.
Yes, so that's the bill. And then there's a whole very sophisticated coalition behind that. Monica, you just want to say a couple words about that?
Well, where we have, like you said, about 126 sponsors. I'm a little bit, I still think more work needs to be done on this bill. I don't know how that's going to happen. I think we don't have enough of reuse policy in this bill. And but I would love for this bill to be part of the package somehow, or is there any way that you can incorporate it? And also there's another bill that I'm going to be talking to some of the people in Senator Whitehouse's office, where they want to tax plastic pellets, and that might be incorporated into some other bill. So there's a lot of work being done on plastics, but we need to move forward on it. And also I was trying to get, I was contacting many of the people in Adopt a District, and I was sending out emails, but I didn't get, it takes me like 3 times until I get a response for these people. So just want you to note that, because I was trying to get more sponsorship on this bill.
Thank you, Monica. So Monica's I'm joining those meetings, but Monica's point, and we're doing it for a variety of reasons: partnership, coalition building. The plastics bill is on our package and has been there for a year and a half now. So that's already on our climate bill package. They're looking to intersect more with the climate movement because they feel like the climate movement has all this forward momentum and passion. And we're sort of telling them, but you have 120 some sponsors for your bill. You're much further along. Of course, their bill doesn't ban plastics. It doesn't do some, in-game things. But in these coalitions, we're not there really trying to renegotiate their legislative agenda or anything like that. We're just building networks and building relationships, because everyone realizes that, that you might get something started, but to get something over the finish line is a different thing. It's a whole difference between filing a bill and passing a bill. It's miles and years of distance, but they're ahead of the curve for sure. So they're not really open to individuals, but if you have if you're part of an organization and you'd like to be part of the Plastics Coalition, it's one of the most professionally best run coalitions out there. And it's interactive and engaging of the group. And so it's really excellent. If that coalition had the Earth Bill, we could all just take a big breather and relax a little bit. But anyhow, one day all these roads will merge. At least that's my master plan. Rachel, did you have a question?
You're on mute.
Okay, I'm unmuted. There has been almost something that I think we might need to address in terms of calming people down. The fact that there's going to be a shortage of heating gas because of the terrible things going on with Ukraine. Terrible shortage. Prices of heating bills are going up through the roof, and that gets everybody's attention. One of my lady friends had something like a $300 heating bill. Mine is usually $60 for my little electric stove and stuff. It went from $60 to $90. And there's just a huge panic. And, you know, our message is don't use gas. How do we handle people who are going to say, see, it's not going to work, it's not going to work. We need gas. Look what's happening with this Ukraine.
Yes, well, another wrinkle in the
Yeah,
world,
I mean, I'm just saying.
politics of oil and gas. I mean, one day when we have 100% renewables, we can stop having wars over fossil fuels. That's sort of our ultimate goal. To stop having these kinds of problems. But thank you, Rachel, for mentioning it and for everything else that you do. Y'all, folks don't know how much Rachel does, but we're in email contact a lot, and she's always got the next Vanguard contact. And just so Rachel, you know, I'm meeting with Pam. I'm talking with Pam, as you know, and Jennifer and others about the EPA. Thanks to you. Just a little, reminds me about the elections. The whole reason to have the Earth Bill and these other bills is to use them as a litmus test for electing candidates and knowing who to support and not to support. So it's really the time to go forward with our pushing to get sponsorships and to ask for their support for the Earth Bill. There's also the no fossil fuel money pledge that we used in 2018. That's still very active. We want to reboot that. These are things just to keep on your mind and for the a little bit longer down the road. And all right, before I forget, I also wanted to mention a couple of things that are coming up. One, we're joining Baird College is having a worldwide teach-in on climate, and we're going to be participating in that at the end of March. And that's very exciting. Corinna Gore invited us to be on that. And I've been on meetings with universities, professors from different places, and I'm just salivating at the opportunity to get to the universities and their students about all of these things. So we'll be doing a teach-in on all of that. And then in terms of action, the proposal that we have that we're mulling over is to go to the farmers markets in the spring. And the idea would be that anyone obviously here that wants to go to your farmers market, you would do so. And we would have things that you could print out, and they would basically have the Earth Bill, pollution-free electricity, cars, and food. Pollution-free electricity, cars, and food. It doesn't get simpler. We have a mantra now that could save the planet, a catchphrase, a tagline. It's so short. I'm very excited about this. And so if you're interested, if you like your farmers markets, if you have some young kids in your lives, family members who you could maybe recruit to this effort, we would love to hit as many farmers markets this year with two messages. One, the carbon clock urgency. Two, the Earth Bill solutions, ending pollution in electricity, cars, and food by 2030. So if anyone is interested in that or helping to steer it. It really doesn't require a lot of, coordination from any central point. Terry did it last year, and so it's very easy. Oh, and Evan, before you go, I want to invite you to say something if you'd like about Earth Day. So I don't know if anyone's interested in that right now, but keep that in mind. And we'll be sending out materials, basically all be self-service. You can print and go, and it should be fairly straightforward. We spoke to the National Association of Farmers Markets. There is one, and they're very nice, and they might send out an email to their list saying, if you'd like to have an activist come to your farmer's market, let us know. I'm just trying to find any way to wiggle our message into their email distribution list. And they, so that was the easiest ask, just to invite them to ask us to show up. But if you do go to farmers markets, you'll want to check in with the farmers market manager, and we'll go over details like that, just to make sure you don't interfere. Generally, you want to be on the outskirts of it. You want to make sure you pick up any paper that gets dropped, simple things like that. But we feel like this is where it will meet the road, and there'll be a QR code where folks can just put on their phone, look at that and open it up and fill it out, and that will add them to our list by congressional district. So this is the idea of taking the Earth Bill to the people directly and garnering signatures by congressional district that we can then turn into emails and phone calls to get sponsorship of the Earth Bill and other bills. And so that's our big spring action event as it's conceived. And we're open to any other suggestions, of course. And then the last, I want to invite Evan Raskin, who's here from Earth Day, to just tell us a little about the Earth Day planning, which we've been in meetings with and are excited about, and they're excited about the Earth Bill and been very generous in that arena. And so, as you know, that's on April 22nd. My goal, my hope, my dream with Espaillat and the others is that we will have a bill filed by then. That's why I keep asking them as the goal. And if that miracle happens, obviously we'll be touting that all over the Earth Day events and Earth Day Initiative in New York City, which is another avenue for these kinds of things. And Evan, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you so much, Todd. I appreciate the introduction, and I've been really excited hearing about how all of these spring planning opportunities have been taking shape. The Earth Bill really fits into some of our biggest priorities for the Earth Day 2022 season. Our theme for this year is Invest in Our Planet, which is focused on how stakeholders from across societies, not just financial institutions, but community organizations, governments, ranging from local leaders all the way up to our federal leadership, how we can come together to invest our time, resources, and energy into creating a more sustainable, equitable world for our planet and for the people who populate it. And I believe that this is really what's at the core of the Earth Bill and a lot of the advocacy that we collectively are organizing. Finding ways that we can invest our resources into creating the future we'd like to see for our planet. I'm really looking forward to supporting these advocacy efforts, and I hope that all of you are as well. Our national campaign has a place for each and every stakeholder within the United States for us to elevate each other's work, connect, and be able to create more positive outcomes together. Please feel free to reach out to me at the email I'll be providing here in the chat. And I'd love to connect with all of you to find ways that we can unite to restore our Earth and invest in our planet.
Wonderful, Evan. Now, what's going on for Earth Day? Can you just give a little sneak preview of what that looks like, and then how folks locally are organizing, perhaps?
Certainly. This is a very large question. As I mentioned, Earth Day really represents the whole of humanity, and stakeholders are taking action in ways that make sense for their community. We really focus on how we can break down barriers while uplifting benefits towards taking that next step. To give some examples of different areas within the national campaign where some really exciting momentum is taking off, we have green cities pledging to take further action. As Todd mentioned, Earth Day serves as an excellent moment for leaders within our government to be able to either announce new plans to take sustainable action or to commemorate the work that they have done in the lead up to Earth Day. In addition to taking greater policy choices, our local leaders are also working on planning community cleanups in low-income communities to help remediate pollution and create more equitable environments. We're also hoping to encourage local leaders to invest more long-term in equity with the goal of creating greater sustainability for the overall citizenry. Within our Faith and Environment program, we are proud to support the Green Faith Movement's organizational efforts to promote the Sacred Season for Climate Justice, which will be running from mid-March through early May, in recognition of the coinciding of observances from religions spanning the world over, tying together the call to care for creation from a spiritual lens to the real ability for congregations to come together to mobilize their flock and to be able to create positive change in their communities. Within the Sacred Season of Climate Justice, we're seeing everything from local actions like community pollinator and tree plantings, all the way up to direct action events, such as the Exodus Alliance's planned direct action events at Chase Banks, calling for divestment from fossil fuels and reinvestment in people, communities, and a sustainable future. We're also looking at seeing some great opportunities taking shape in DC in both the form of direct action as well as formal commemoration. We're in the final stages of planning events on the National Mall. We're hoping to see a large event come together and at the very least broadcast our presence in what is really the seat of American democracy. Overall, our goal is to demonstrate the truly global nature of Earth Day and the environmental movement. One of our flagship tools being our Earth Day map. If you are planning an event during the month of April, also known as Earth Month to us, we encourage you to register your events on the map, not only to engage the millions of site visitors we receive during April and direct them towards your great events, but also to serve as a powerful advocacy tool to visualize to decision makers that our events don't stand in isolation, but rather this is a global effort and that people the world over are coming together in the call to restore our Earth and take regenerative action to create that future that we need. I'll be sharing a link for the registration map in the sidebar, and please feel free to reach out to me with any questions about how you can either get your events further connected to Earth Day movement, or if you would like any support in developing new opportunities through your organization and connections. Thanks for giving me the time, Todd. I really appreciate being able to share this with such a great crowd tonight.
Oh, you're very welcome, Evan. You're just such a pleasure to work with, and it's always so exciting, everything you have going on. And I'm so glad you kept talking, because I totally forgot to talk about the Sacred Season for Climate Justice and the Exodus Alliance work, which we're deeply involved with. We started meeting with Rabbi Waskal last fall. Forget how that came about, but in any event, I think Rachel Macliffe and Nancy Lawrence initiated that. Nancy initiated that, and it really blossomed. She inspired him. So Nancy, I don't know if you'd like to say a few words about what's happening, or Lavona, if you're plugged into all of that. But there's all the faith, not all of them, but several faith denominations are mobilizing simultaneously over the course of a few months, because there's a convergence of high holidays, that's sort of an unusual, I guess, convergence of the calendar around a few, maybe 6 to 8 weeks. And so different denominations are doing their own things, but it's very exciting. And we're part of the Exodus Alliance specifically, and which is, what's Rabbi Waskal's group again, Rachel? Well, why don't you say a few words about it? Because Rachel is leading and organizing of a Seder in New York, and just let her share her passion for this organizing.
Dainu?
No, it's not Dainu. It's
Shalom Center in Philadelphia.
Shalom Center. I forgot. I couldn't believe I forgot. Too many names, so many groups. The Shalom Center, and on their website, which if you have a link to it, the Earth Bill is already listed as one of the demands, and we've made great progress in joining arms there. Rachel, you want to say a couple words about it? You might be muted.
There are very few rules one of the things I am waiting for is that Arthur, who wrote a Freedom Seder story script for the service, I would say the liturgy for Passover is like a script to tell the story of the Exodus. 50 years ago, he converted that story into a story for freedom for all groups. A wonderful thing. He called it the Freedom Seder, and he has redone it. And I am waiting with bated breath. I think the only thing we really need would be to get a copy of that Haggadah, which is the script. And once we have the script, we're ready to go. I also have a crazy fantasy. I want to do a golden calf piñata.
Ha!
I want to take a piñata, spray it with gold paint, fill it with things that are non-material, non-fossil fuel, love and family and charity and stuff, and beat the hell out of it. Part of my in-laws are Mexican. And one of my Mexican in-laws explained to me that the original piñata was the church trying to beat the heck out of sin. So I want to do a Jewish version. If you want to help me with that, I think it would be hysterical. So that's it. Let's wait for the Haggadah, the script to come in, and then we're ready to roll.
It's very exciting. Did you decide if you're going to do this outside of Chase Bank or at Schumer's, outside Schumer's?
I would like to do it outside of Schumer's home. I've spoken to Eric Weldman, no pressure, but he would like to do it if he can. And he's used to doing this. He is the master of embarrassing people, because I belong to his group too. And so I would like, that was Todd's suggestion, is we do it outside of Schumer's home. I think that would be fab. So Todd's going to help on, his ideas for it. I don't think it's going to be hard. Once we have the script, we are ready.
I can't wait to smack that piñata.
Well, there we are.
I have that energy already stored up. So thank you so much, Rachel, and for all the work that you, Nancy, do you want to add anything about anything? I know you're got some things going on. So, all right, Lavona, any other thoughts about the sacred season? I think we've covered it anyway.
Yeah, I think you could I just did put the link though to the Exodus Alliance, which is the multi-faith efforts that we're talking about. And they will provide some technical assistance too, so to folks. So that'd be great. Yeah, people could check that out.
And this is a good opportunity to reach out to local faith groups. When I talked about the adopted district, one thing I didn't include on there is local faith organizations. That should always be on our list. This is very strategic and extremely important because faith organizations are the community. And so and we're doing a beautiful job. Our faith network is growing, and we've got basically we're connected everywhere. That there's a network now, that's for sure. Things are networked. They're not all doing the same thing yet, but we're all doing something. And so it's a good opportunity to engage your local faith team or environmental team, or even just go to the local priest and say, could we have a sermon on this, or can we do something outside the Chase Bank, or whatever action you want. It's just a good hook to engage folks and to get those conversations started, and then hopefully guide them to the Earth Bill. Our team anyway, we have lots of faith groups, and the list of them is growing. And I was looking back at the list of when we did the Equality Act and how we built the demand for that brick by brick, and it was all 5 organizations, then 10, then ended up 250. And I looked at an early list, and there were so many faith groups. Some of them are on this list too, and I'd forgotten, it's been so long. So it really is a foundational building block. And when the faith community and the environmental activists all come together, we're going to be a force to be reckoned with. All right, well, I think that's everything. We covered quite a bit, obviously. Any questions? Nydia, did you have anything you wanted to share? I know you wrote me about something. Is that something for the group or for me?
Just for you.
Okay, we'll talk about that later, then I'll call you. I saw some notes in the email about the order of the groups and putting them in alphabetical order. I completely understand that desire. What I generally do is keep them in the order in which they came in.
Oh,
I like to show, you know, who came first, who came second, who came third, and because that's like building a sacred talisman of sorts. You know, it's a pyramid based on a foundation. It's just how I think about it. But I understand the need to have an alphabetical list so you can see who's there and who's not. So we'll figure out something there to think about that. It's a click of a button on the internal list, but that's not helping y'all. So I'll figure something out there. Thomas, any questions, or was I waving your hand, or you want to say something?